Welcome, and thank you for joining Between Sessions with Justin and Challie.
Just a quick disclaimer before we start. This podcast is for educational and conversational purposes only. It's not intended to replace therapy, counseling, or professional mental health care. We are sharing lived experiences and reflections, not prescriptions, and we encourage our listeners to seek professional guidance when needed.
Hi, everyone, and thank you for joining this week. Today, I'm going to be talking about something that I plan to introduce on the podcast and dive a little bit farther into. But today, I'm going to do a little bit of an introduction of talking about a coping skills toolbox. So, we're going to go over kind of what a coping skills toolbox is, some of the benefits of what that is going to have, and then some ideas of what that can consist of. And then in some later episodes, we'll dive a little bit farther into it and maybe work on developing some of those skills and have some more concrete ideas of what we can put into it. But this is just going to be like a little bit of a general overview and some benefits of it. So, first off, a coping skills toolbox. Some of the things are physical. Overall, is not like a physical toolbox that we're going to have and we're going to carry around with us. A coping skills toolbox is going to be kind of a mental or written list of things that we can do that are going to immediately help in the moment. Whether that is we're stressed, we're anxious, we're feeling depressed, we're feeling overwhelmed, any of those big emotions that we might be feeling, this is going to be a way to be able to ground us and to be able to help us gain a little bit more control. So, some benefits of a coping skill toolbox is that it is going to be empowering. It's going to show our brain and our body that we're able to take control of a situation when other times maybe we wouldn't be able to, or in previous times where we felt as though we kind of lost control of our emotions. So it's going to build emotional resilience so we can work through those challenging or difficult times. We're going to be able to work through it in real time rather than just having to white knuckle it and get through it and then try and figure it out afterwards. These are some things that will be able to help us work through it and be able to potentially have a better outcome of the situation. It's also going to be able to help us feel more grounded in the moment and help us feel present. Some of it is practicing mindfulness. So it'll bring us back into the moment so that we're able to feel confident in the moment that we're experiencing something rather than having that like, oh, I wish I handled it this way. I know I've done that so many times. So this is going to bring us closer to being able to manage those emotions, those big feelings, or that conflict closer to that time. It may not always be immediate in real time, but it can get us closer to that. It's customizable. So it is not going to be a one size fits all type of situation. It's going to be unique to us of what is helpful for us in the moment. And we're going to have a variety of things in there. And so then it's also going to allow us to gain control over ourselves, over our emotions, over those thoughts, to bring us back more to a calm level. And it's going to really help us manage the situation and the circumstances so that we can really come to a better outcome. It's going to allow us to have some immediate stress relief. So many times we carry stress around with us. We carry all the things that we experienced or did or didn't do throughout the day. And this is going to help alleviate some of those. It's not going to take them all away, but in some of the things that maybe we would tend to carry around because maybe we felt like we didn't handle it in the best way, we're going to be able to minimize those a little bit more. Again, this is something that is going to be self-soothing, as that it has the ability to help us regulate our emotions. So maybe times that we would feel as though we go from 0 to 100 because we're feeling triggered or we're overwhelmed or we're just having a lot of things going on at one point in time. This is going to help us feel soothed in that moment and be able to manage and build some resilience to those triggers, to those challenges, so that it doesn't take us out every time. So we're going to be able to manage the way that we're feeling in our head, and then we're going to be able to respond much more effectively rather than reacting emotionally. I know for many of us, I know for me, it's really easy to act out of emotion and just to react to things. So this is going to allow us to be able to respond a little bit more effectively, a little bit more responsibly. We're going to feel proud of the way that we're handling situations rather than walking away feeling as though we could have done something better. There's always going to be room for some improvement, but this is going to get us a lot closer to feeling confident in the way that we handled things. This is also going to help us challenge some of those more negative coping skills that we might have, those negative habits that are unhealthy or harmful to us. It's going to allow us to not just jump to those, and we're going to have some safety nets in place before we hit those. And with having this toolbox per se, it's going to allow us to have a variety of things that we're able to choose from to be able to help us in that moment so that we have something lined up. Many times it's easier to fall back to more unhealthy coping skills because we don't have other things prepared. And in the moment, we're not thinking because we're in fight or flight. We're in that survival mode. So we just go to what's comfortable or what has worked in the past. A lot of times that's negative. That can be yelling. That can be substance use. That can be anything that we just may not consider to be healthy for us. Maybe something we would like to improve. These are going to be some coping skills that put some distance or space in between the situation that's happening and then the reaction. So we're going to be able to grasp and gain a little bit more control over that. This is not going to be an exhaustive list of everything that can go into our coping skills toolbox by any means, and we'll break it down and we'll do more in the future to go over some ways to develop some of these skills. This is just going to be more of like a brief overview. So there is ways to be able to ground ourselves, whether that be through our breathing. So we can do some different breath work, which can be so beneficial. That's something that we have access to all the time because if we're here, we're still breathing. So that's something that we can tune into and that can ground us in the moment. That can be when we're driving, that can be in a meeting, that can be on the subway. That's something that nobody else even has to know that we're doing. And it can be a way that we can cope and ground ourselves a little bit more effectively. Some sensory things. I sit here and I fidget with some stones. Maybe that's like a fidget spinner or a Rubik's Cube, just different things that stimulate our brain to be able to feel more in the moment. That could also be a smell. I know different smells make me feel more calm, and I'm sure that is for other people. Also, sometimes smells can make us feel more intense emotions too. So being mindful what we're choosing with that. It can also be doing a grounding technique. So being able to bring us back into the moment to feel more grounded and to be present. Those are some different things that can help us with that. Again, being able to find things that we enjoy that we're going to actually like doing within that. Don't pick something we hate because then we're not going to do it. We're no better off then. So that's going to help reduce our stress. That's going to bring us back into the moment. Some things that we can do also within this toolbox are things to distract us. So to be able to get our mind off of whatever we're doing. And I know this is where some of those unhealthy ones come in, or those negative coping skills, like just doom scrolling or goodness, anything that is just an escape, where being able to do something that is a distraction, but is still healthy for us. These can look like maybe doing a puzzle, playing a game, talking to someone. Journaling is a huge one. That's kind of a double one because that is a way to process. It's a way to reflect, but it's also a distraction, and it's getting those emotions and those feelings out on that paper. Sometimes we can even do it on our phone. It makes it a little bit more accessible if we have some note-taking ability on our phone. There's different apps for it. There's different setups that we can use, and that's really simple. Just a way to check in with ourselves. The other part of that is it helps us track the way that we're feeling. So sometimes going to be including like a mood chart or mood tracking activities to help us keep track of the way that we're feeling throughout the week, throughout the day, even throughout the month, to be able to see what we have going on. That is also a really cool way to reflect on things. If we have that evidence there that we're handling things better, it is going to be a lot easier to reflect and see our progress rather than it just being in the air and just trying to think about it like, oh, maybe I did better this day. Who knows? Being able to write it down or to track it in some way is going to help us really feel that progress. Some of the other sensory ones can be like the sense, like the essential oils. It can be a stress ball. It can also be stimulation such as listening to calming music or music that we enjoy. Just in general, music can be a really good coping skill that can help us be distracted, and it can play a big role on our emotions. So if we're feeling really sad and we want to feel that and we want to work through it and maybe identify, maybe we put something that helps us think about why we're sad. If we are not feeling so great and we want to change that mood, put on something uplifting. Put on something that is going to help us break that cycle of whatever that emotion is, maybe if we're feeling more negative. Another distraction to go along with the journaling could also be reading, or it could be crafting, coloring. I am a huge one for coloring. It's something that I never used to do, but I have found so much joy in being able to color, and it is something that calms me down now. So being able to utilize that. Another really good one is that's going to help us with the grounding and the mindfulness could be meditation, and that could be guided, or that could just be if we're good and we know how to do it and do it effectively, maybe that's just sitting down and meditating, checking in with ourselves, giving ourselves that time. And another really good one that is going to bring us back in the moment and can also serve as a distraction is going to be exercise. So being able to see what we can accomplish, being able to exercise, it distracts us. It releases dopamine in our brain because we're doing something and our muscles are moving, we're moving, and it is a way to be able to get our mind off of whatever we had going on and to focus ourselves on something different. Some of the benefits of having this toolbox is going to be that we can pull it out at any time. This is something that we are going to have, whether it be we wrote it down on an index card, we wrote it in the notes app on our phone, or we have it mentally. If we have it mentally, that's really good. It can be a little bit more challenging sometimes to remember that in the moment. And that is where it's really positive to have it written down somewhere that we're able to have a quick recall for it rather than just in our head. Because when we're feeling stressed or overwhelmed, we go into that fight or flight, and then our brain's not really working at its full capacity anyways. So it's a lot harder to remember those things. So that can be one of the ways that we're able to take control over that and maybe have it on an index card in our wallet or our bag, having it in the notes app on our phone, just to have it as a reminder, as a go-to. There are so many different resources, and that's what we'll get into in some of the later topics with this is going to be some resources for this. But being able to come up with a list of what we like doing, sometimes even looking up like what are some of the top 100 coping skills to be able to pick and choose a few of them. It's going to be really important that we don't just have one for each category because different situations come with different coping techniques. And it would be really easy to fall back into those maybe unhealthy ones if that first one that we have doesn't work and we're like, oh my goodness, it's not going to work anyways. Why would I even try this? So being able to have a few to choose from where if one doesn't work for this situation, maybe a different one will. So that can be really beneficial. And that's going to allow us to feel more confident in this. That's why it's beneficial to have it written down somewhere, is it will be easier to recall a few different ones if it's written down rather than just trying to pick it out of our brain. This is something that is easy to develop if we put in the time to do it. It's a little bit more difficult for us to recall to do it those first few times, but once we start to build a habit out of this, once we start to see that it is effective one or two times, it's going to build that confidence and, oh, wow, I can handle the situation a little bit better. And then it's going to be a little bit quicker for us to think about the more positive ways, but it takes practice. This is something that is not perfection. It's not going to work every single time, especially starting out. So giving ourselves some grace that this is utilizing these different coping skills will come in time. And the sooner that we acknowledge that progress is progress, the better off we're going to be with it. Even if it is reducing our emotional outburst or our negative feelings or that negative self-talk, even one time afterwards within a week, that is huge progress because we go through so many different emotions, so many different thoughts in a day, sometimes in an hour. So being able to accomplish this little by little and giving ourselves that grace is going to be really important. Something that we can do that is helpful is being able to track that. When that kind of goes back to the journaling piece, but to be able to see how many times we're using this, and I think we'd really surprise ourselves. And at first, it doesn't have to be in real time. Yes, the goal of getting there to be able to do this in real time so that we're able to stay cool, calm, and collected during a tough situation is wonderful. But when a crisis develops or a crisis happens, we might still react emotionally. Maybe this comes into play once we calm ourselves down a little bit the first few times. And then we're able to reflect on this and utilize some of these coping skills a few hours later, maybe a day later. And then the more and more that we practice this, the more and more that we recall these things, the closer and closer to that real time it's going to get. So, taking baby steps with this is going to be really important. And also having that variety of things in our toolbox is going to be really helpful because if that first one doesn't work, it's really easy to give up and be like, ha, of course not. So if that first one doesn't work, we don't have to be committed to that one. We can change it. We can say, this isn't really working. This isn't taking my mind off of it. This breathing isn't really working right now. Maybe I need to do something different. And being able to do that, that's why we have this toolbox, is to be able to have a variety of things that we can choose from for a variety of different situations because each crisis is going to look a little bit different. Maybe it's a conversation with our boss or a family member that can be triggering, or maybe we experience something even bigger. This is something that can be pulled out when we're having a small challenge or a really big one. And the more we practice it in the small ones, easier it's going to be able to pull out for the big ones and the more confident we're going to feel in it. So being able to use it, and maybe it is when someone cuts us off in traffic and our initial reaction is to yell at them, maybe we just take a breath and we reserve that yelling. So that's something minor. Then when we get into that argument with a family member, or we feel as though our boundary is crossed, or we have something happen at work, it's going to be a little bit easier for us to utilize that more healthy coping skill, and we're going to feel more confident in that. Building confidence through repetition builds that habit. So being able to practice these each day and the small things will help build us towards that much larger situation. And again, we might get something completely out of left field that we have no prep for. That's when we can add something new to our toolbox. This is something that is going to be ever growing. We can always add more things to it. And it is going to be so beneficial to add the different things because life changes. We might have to clear some of those coping skills out. I know from me, some of my coping skills that used to work don't really work anymore. So I've had to revisit that and I've had to figure out what's going to work a little bit more effectively now because life changes. We have additions in our life and then we have to take out some things. So it's something that can always be changing. We can always modify it and it's unique to us. Like I said in the beginning, so this is going to be something that there's no judgment on. We are able to utilize it as long as it's healthy, then we are accomplishing something wonderful. And the goal is not to be perfect at it. The goal is to make progress and to handle things in a healthier way, to be able to manage our emotions and build that emotional resilience so that we can handle the challenges that life is inevitably going to throw at us and to not have everything become that crisis. And I know I have been guilty of that, especially when we're at our wits' end or we have a lot of things going on or we're pulled in so many different directions. It's so easy to lose sight of what's big and what's small. So building that emotional resilience, having that flexibility is going to allow us to really evaluate what are the big things and to let go of some of the smaller things where when we might struggle with that emotional resilience, everything just layers on and it builds to a point that we explode like a volcano. So this is going to help us prioritize the things that we really need to focus our energy on and then to just let the things that are going to take our energy and not be rewarding out of it. The more that we are able to utilize these tools within our toolbox or these different techniques, these different distractions, the more it is going to build. And then we might even see ourselves doing it naturally without even having to put too much thought into it. That's a beautiful time that starts to happen. I have seen that happen for myself, and I've really surprised myself in situations where I've looked back and been like, wow, I handled that a little bit better than I thought I was going to. And that's a really good feeling. So to be able to engage in things that help us feel better rather than walking away from a situation beating ourselves up, it is going to be so much more beneficial to be able to be proud of the way that we handled something. And that can just be a really great goal. And it's going to take some time, but when we start, that is one step in the right direction. So I will continue to go through some of these in some later episodes. I plan to make a playlist to be able to help develop our toolbox. If anybody has any ideas of how this has worked for us or any different strategies or coping skills that we've been able to use and we feel like have been effective for us, please share. I would love to hear these things. I'm going to do a deeper dive into each area to be able to develop this toolbox, but I'm always open to different ideas because everybody's toolbox is going to be unique. So something that might work for you, someone else might find a great benefit in. Thank you guys so much for joining this week, and we will see you back next week. Thank you.